March 10, 1953, a British pilot lands a Supermarine Spitfire on Polish soil deliberately. He's not lost, he's not damaged, he's defecting to the Soviet bloc with one of NATO's most advanced photo reconnaissance aircraft. Except he isn't. The CIA files stayed sealed for 61 years. What really happened in the 47 minutes between crossing the Iron Curtain and touching down changed how Western intelligence operated behind enemy lines. 13:17 hours, March 10, 1953, Flight Lieutenant Michael Tarrant, Royal Air Force, pushes his Spitfire PR.XIX into Polish airspace at 41,000 feet. Radio silence, no flight plan filed, no wingman. The Polish air defense network tracks him immediately, a single aircraft penetrating 80 miles into restricted territory. Ground controllers watch something impossible unfold. The British pilot isn't running reconnaissance patterns. He's descending, gear down, flaps extended, landing configuration. Warsaw scrambles 4 MiG-15 fighters. By the time they reach altitude, Tarrant is on the ground at a military airfield near Poznan, canopy open, hands visible. The Soviets think they've captured a defector and NATO's latest reconnaissance technology. The British publicly declared Tarrant a traitor. The CIA says nothing. The truth? Tarrant walked into Poland to steal something the Soviets didn't know they'd lost. To understand how a 28-year-old RAF pilot executed the most audacious intelligence operation of the early Cold War, we need to go back to a coal town in northern England.
Michael James Tarrant, born April 3, 1925, Ashington, Northumberland. Population 27,000. His father worked the coal seams 2,000 feet below the North Sea. His older brother died there in 1938, cave-in at age 19. Tarrant joined the RAF in 1943, 2 months after his 18th birthday. Not for king and country, for altitude. He told his enlistment officer, "I'd rather die in the air than underground." He washed out of fighter training. Reflexes adequate, gunnery acceptable, but instructors noted excessive caution in engagement scenarios. The RAF reassigned him to photo reconnaissance. Perfect. PR pilots flew alone, unarmed, relying on speed and altitude instead of combat. By 1945, Tarrant had logged 340 hours in Spitfire PR-19s, photographing V-2 launch sites and submarine pens. After the war, most PR pilots transferred to bombers or transports. Tarrant stayed. The RAF kept a small PR force for mapping colonial territories and monitoring Soviet military movements along the Iron Curtain. By 1952, he'd accumulated 1,847 flight hours in Spitfires. He knew the aircraft's quirks better than most engineers. The way the Rolls-Royce Griffin engine burned oil above 38,000 feet, the exact fuel consumption at various altitudes, how to coax another 2,000 feet from the ceiling by running the engine lean enough to risk seizure. His commanding officer described him as methodical to the point of tedium. Tarrant calculated everything: fuel reserves, wind drift, camera intervals, emergency landing sites. He carried maps showing every airfield within 200 miles of his flight path, including those behind the Iron Curtain. In February 1953, that obsessive planning caught someone's attention.
February 18, 1953, Tarrant receives orders to report to RAF Benson, Oxfordshire, the photo reconnaissance headquarters. Instead, a car takes him to a townhouse in London. No unit markings, no military insignia. Inside, 3 men, 2 British, 1 American. The American does most of the talking. Poland, December 1952, a Soviet defector crosses into West Germany near Helmstedt. Not just any defector, Colonel Pyotr Semyonov, GRU Signals Intelligence. He brings documents, but more importantly, he brings a problem. Semyonov's wife and 9-year-old daughter are still in Poland. The Soviets don't know he's defected yet. He was on authorized leave to visit family in Poznan. His leave expires March 15th. After that, they'll know. and they'll use his family as leverage, or worse. Standard extraction, impossible. Poznan sits 180 miles inside Poland. No CIA networks that deep. No way to move two people across multiple Soviet checkpoints and through the Iron Curtain without triggering alerts. The American CIA Special Activities Division, name never given to Tarrant, lays out the plan. Semyonov provided exact details: his wife's daily routine, their apartment location, guard rotations at the military housing complex. He also provided something else: the access codes and radio frequencies for Polish air defense, current through March 14th. After that, new codes take effect. The window, 5 days. The method, a lone aircraft appearing to defect, landing at a Polish military airfield with a plausible mechanical emergency. Confusion would buy maybe an hour before Soviet intelligence took control. In that hour, a ground team already in place, Polish resistance fighters coordinated by Mi-6, would move the family to the airfield. 1 Spitfire, 2 passengers instead of cameras, back across the border at low altitude before the Soviets organized a proper response. The American looks at Tarrant directly. You'll be declared a defector publicly. Your family will believe it. If you're captured, we can't acknowledge you. If you're killed, you'll die at traitor. You'll never be able to explain. Tarrant asks 3 questions. First, what's the fuel consumption penalty with 2 additional passengers and no camera equipment removed? Second, which airfield? Third, when? No questions about the risk. No questions about what happens if caught. Just mathematics and logistics. The American almost smiles. That's why you're here. Tarrant spends the next week with his Spitfire PR-19 at a remote hangar in Scotland. Serial number PS853. He's flown this exact aircraft for 14 months. Knows every rivet. The PR-19, pressurized cabin, Griffin 66 engine producing 2,050 horsepower. Operational ceiling, 44,000 feet. No guns. The armament bays converted to fuel tanks and camera equipment. Range, 1,550 miles internal fuel, extendable to 2,100 miles with underwing drop tank. For this mission, they remove 800 pounds of camera equipment, install a makeshift bench where the vertical camera's mounted, calculate fuel loads precisely, enough to reach Poznan, circle once for mechanical issues, land, then fly 240 miles to the border at 500 feet below radar coverage before climbing out over West Germany. Total fuel available, 254 gallons internal, 90 gallons in 2 underwing tanks. Consumption at altitude, 66 gallons per hour. At low level, full power, 110 gallons per hour. The math is brutal. Tarrant calculates it 17 times. Each scenario ends the same way. He'll cross back into West German airspace with maybe 8 gallons remaining. Maybe. One other modification, they paint over his aircraft's RAF roundels with quick-drying gray paint. From a distance, it'll look like poor maintenance or a hasty deserter's attempt at concealment. Up close, inspectors will see British markings underneath. Perfect. Makes the defection look rushed and authentic. March 5th through 9th, Tarrant flies practice runs along the West German border, studies Polish terrain from reconnaissance photos, memorizes landmarks, railroad lines, rivers, anything visible from 40,000 feet or 500 feet. The CIA provides one piece of insurance. A Polish-speaking radio operator will be listening on emergency frequencies. If Tarrant transmits specific brevity codes, the operator can feed him Polish air defense responses, making it seem like he's coordinating with ground control for his defection. March 9th, evening, final briefing. Weather, clear. Winds from the west at 35 knots at altitude. Moon phase, waning crescent. 22% visible. Dark enough. The ground team confirms readiness. Semyonov's wife knows nothing. Better that way. The resistance fighters will tell her your husband sent us and move fast. She'll either trust them or she won't. Tarrant receives a sealed envelope. Open this if you're about to be captured. Memorize the contents.
destroy it. He never opens it. Years later, he'll admit he didn't want to know what suicide pill or cyanide capsule they'd given him. Easier to fly without thinking about that option. March 10th, 1953, 11:42 hours. RAF Benson. Tarrant climbs in to PS 853. No ceremony, no witnesses. Just a fuel truck and a ground crew who think he's running another mapping sortie. He taxis, lifts off, turns east.
12:17 hours. Tarrant crosses into East German airspace at 42,000 feet. The Spitfire's pressurized cabin keeps him comfortable, but he's breathing pure oxygen, feeling the familiar lightheadedness that comes with altitude. He flies straight and level, no evasive maneuvers. A reconnaissance flight would dodge and weave. He wants to be tracked, but not intercepted yet. East German radar picks him up immediately. Single aircraft, high altitude, Western origin. Standard procedure: alert Soviet Air Defense Headquarters in Karlshorst. Scramble standing patrol fighters. 2 MiG-15s climb from Cottbus. By the time they reach 40,000 feet, the MiG's effective ceiling, Tarrant is already across the Polish border. 12:42 hours. Polish airspace. Tarrant begins descent. Throttles back. Drops 5,000 feet. Then levels off, then descends again. Erratic, like an aircraft with engine trouble. Pilot fighting to maintain altitude. Polish ground control lights up. Multiple radar stations tracking. Radio chatter Tarrant can't understand, but the CIA operator, listening on a separate frequency, translates through Tarrant's earpiece. They're confused. Some controllers think you're a defector. Others think it's a malfunction. Keep descending. 12:56 hours. 4 MiG-15 scramble from Warsaw. 23 minutes to intercept at current trajectory. Tarrant descends through 30,000 feet. Activates the radio on Polish air defense frequency. Speaks in English. Polish control. British aircraft. Request emergency landing. Engine failure. Request emergency landing. Silence. Then rapid Polish. The CIA operator translates. They're confused. Someone's calling Moscow. 13:03 hours. Tarrant drops the underwing fuel tanks. They tumble away. Standard emergency procedure to reduce weight and drag. Genuine emergency protocol. It sells the story. He's at 18,000 feet now. Poznan Airfield visible ahead, 40 miles. The MiGs from Warsaw are 12 minutes out. Polish ground control responds in broken English. British aircraft. You are ordered to land military airfield Poznan Krasini. Acknowledge. Tarrant. Acknowledged. Engine fire. Landing immediately. There's no engine fire. The Griffin purrs perfectly, but he enriches the mixture, deliberately fouls the exhaust. Black smoke trails from the cowling, visible from miles. The MiG pilots will see it. Controllers will see it. Everyone will believe.
13:09 hours. Tarrant extends landing gear at 8,000 feet, drops flaps. Airspeed bleeds to 160 miles per hour. The Spitfire wallows, heavy, ungainly, in landing configuration. Poznan Krasini Airfield, 6,800-foot concrete runway, Polish Air Force Base, home to 12th Fighter Regiment, flying MiG-15s. Perimeter security, guard towers. This isn't some rural strip. This is a frontline Soviet bloc military installation. He lines up. Runway heading 280 degrees. Wind favors the landing. Small mercy. Altitude 2,000 feet. Gear down, 3 green lights. Mixture rich. Props, fine pitch. The tower is screaming in Polish. The CIA operator translates. Emergency vehicles scrambled. Fire trucks positioning. Ground troops en route to runway. Tarrant doesn't acknowledge. Full concentration. Airspeed 140 miles per hour. Over the fence. Pull throttle to idle. The Griffin snarls down. Flare. Hold it. Hold it. Main wheels touch at 13:12 hours. Perfect centerline. Tail settles. He stands on the brakes. Not too hard. Don't want to nose over. The Spitfire decelerates. 80 miles per hour. 60. 40. He rolls to the end of the runway, away from the main ramp. Turns the aircraft perpendicular to the taxiway, blocking it. Shuts down the engine. Silence. Just the wind over the canopy,
and his own breathing. The canopy is still closed. Through the bulletproof windscreen, he sees 3 trucks racing toward him, soldiers spilling out, rifles raised. He counts to 10, slowly, lets them get close. Then he slides the canopy back, raises both hands, palms forward, international sign of surrender. 27 rifles aimed at his head.
Polish soldiers drag Tarrant from the cockpit, hands zip-tied behind his back, face pressed against cold concrete, someone's knee between his shoulder blades, shouting in Polish, Russian, broken English. Why you here? Why you come Poland? You spy? You defect? Tarrant sticks to the script. Engine fire. Emergency landing. Request contact British Embassy. More shouting. They haul him upright, push him toward one of the tracks. 2 soldiers climb into the Spitfire's cockpit, examining instruments, looking for what? Bombs? Intelligence equipment? They find the modified passenger bench where cameras should be. Confusion. More radio chatter. A Polish officer approached. Older, maybe 50, speaks better English. You are defecting to People's Republic. Tarrant lets fear show. Not hard. He's genuinely terrified. I need asylum. I can't go back. I bring intelligence. The magic words. The officer's expression changes. He barks orders. The soldiers ease up slightly. This is the critical moment. Soviet intelligence will arrive soon, probably 30 to 45 minutes by car from their regional headquarters. Once they take control, the window closes. The Polish military, for now, wants to claim credit for capturing a defecting British pilot. Bureaucratic pride buys minutes. They take Tarrant to a small building at the airfield's edge. An office, maps on the walls, radio equipment. They sit him in a chair, hands still bound. 2 guards at the door. The officer begins questions. Name, rank, unit. What intelligence does he have? Tarrant feeds them fragments, names of RAF squadrons, vague mentions of reconnaissance targets, just enough to seem valuable, not enough to satisfy. 1341 hours, 29 minutes since landing. Outside, Tarrant hears vehicle engines, not military trucks. Civilian, a truck and a car. They stop near the Spitfire. Through the window, he glimpses 3 men exiting the truck. Civilian clothes. 1 woman, child. The Polish resistance team, moving fast. They approach a different officer near the aircraft. Papers presented. Rapid conversation, gesturing toward the Spitfire. One of the resistance fighters, speaking Polish with Russian accent, probably claiming Soviet authority, points at the passenger bench. The officer looks confused, radios someone. More discussion.
Inside the office, Tarrant keeps talking, louder now, animated, demanding water, demanding British Embassy contact, drawing attention to himself. 1348 hours, 36 minutes since landing. Through the window, the woman and child climb into the Spitfire. Awkward, the resistance fighters help them, then step back. One of them argues with the Polish officer, pointing at paperwork. The officer radios again. Tarrant's interrogating officer steps outside to join the discussion. The 2 guards at the door watch Tarrant, but glance toward the commotion. 1352 hours. The woman is out of the Spitfire, angry, shaking her head. One resistance fighter pulls her aside, speaking urgently. She looks toward the office building, toward where they're holding Tarrant. Then she nods, climbs back in. The child follows. 1354 hours, 42 minutes since landing. The Polish officers are arguing. The Spitfire's engine suddenly roars to life. Someone's in the cockpit, one of the resistance fighters. Leather jacket, pilot's cap pulled low, throttle advancing. Shouting. Soldiers running toward the aircraft. The propeller spins, kicking up dust. The Spitfire starts rolling. Inside the office, Tarrant stands. "What's happening? That's my aircraft!" The guards grab him. Everyone's moving toward the door. Outside, chaos. The Spitfire is taxiing, not toward the runway, toward the perimeter fence. Soldiers chasing on foot. A jeep accelerating alongside. The Polish officer from Tarrant's interrogation runs toward a radio truck.
He's calling for the Spitfire pivots, faster now, heading for the runway after all. The resistance fighter in the cockpit knows what he's doing, probably flew Spitfires during World War II. Polish pilot who stayed in the West, 1356 hours. The Spitfire rotates, lifts off, gear retracting. It banks hard west, staying low. Every gun on the airfield opens fire. Rifles, machine guns, tracers arcing toward the climbing aircraft. But it's already 500 feet up, 600, accelerating. 2 MiG-15s that landed minutes earlier scramble for immediate takeoff, but they're cold engines, not pre-flight checked. Precious seconds wasted. Tarrant watches through the office window, hands still bound, soldiers gripping his arms. He keeps his face neutral, confused, betrayed. Perfect. The Spitfire disappears into the western haze.
The Polish pilot, name never recorded, probably killed in a later operation, pushes the Spitfire at full throttle, 500 feet above ground, following railroad tracks toward the border. Speed, 320 miles per hour. Fuel remaining, approximately 115 gallons. Distance to West German border, 238 miles. Time to border, at current speed and altitude, 44 minutes. Fuel consumption at full power, low altitude, 110 gallons per hour. Fuel required, 80 gallons. The math works, barely. Behind him, the MiG-15s scramble, but they're 5 minutes behind, and the Spitfire is already at terrain-following altitude. Polish and Soviet radar loses the low-flying aircraft among ground clutter. The MiGs climb, searching. Radio traffic explodes. Polish, Russian, frantic coordination. All airfields along the border on alert. But which sector? The Spitfire could cross anywhere along 200 miles of frontier. Soviet air defense orders MiGs from 3 bases to establish patrol line, find the British aircraft, force it down, or destroy it. The Polish pilot flies like it's 1944 again, hedge-hopping, following rivers, using hills for cover. In the passenger compartment, converted from camera bay, barely 3 feet by 2 feet, Semyonov's wife shields her daughter. No seats, no harness, just metal floor and terror. The Griffin engine screens. Oil temperature climbing. The pilot richens the mixture slightly. Cost him fuel, but prevents engine seizure. Cylinder head temperature needles hovering at redline. 1428 hours. German Democratic Republic airspace. Still 140 miles from the border between East and West Germany. The pilot angles slightly south. Better crossing point. Fewer Soviet bases. 2 MiG-15s spot him. They're at 8,000 feet, and he's 300 feet below them. They dive. The Polish pilot sees them coming, pushes the Spitfire even lower. 200 feet, trees whipping past the wingtips. A MiG fires. Cannons, not machine guns. 37 millimeters and 23 millimeter rounds. But they're shooting almost straight down. Deflection impossible at this speed differential. Tracers slash past. The Spitfire jinks right, following a river bend. The MiGs overshoot, pull up. They're too fast for this. MiG-15 stall speed, 135 miles per hour. Minimum safe maneuvering speed at low altitude, 200 miles per hour. The Spitfire is comfortable at 160 miles per hour. Turning inside them, using terrain. The MiGs climb for another pass, but the Spitfire disappears into a valley. The pilots lose visual. 1441 hours. Fuel gauge reading 47 gallons. Border 92 miles. The pilot climbs slightly, 1,000 feet. Scans ahead. There, the tree line changes. Watchtowers visible. The border. He doesn't transmit, doesn't announce. Just flies straight at it. 1447 hours, he crosses into West German airspace at 800 feet, still at full power. Behind him, the MiGs break off. They don't cross. Standing orders: don't violate NATO airspace without explicit authorization. The Polish pilot finally throttles back, climbs to 3,000 feet, circles, transmits on emergency frequency. British aircraft, request landing, 3 persons aboard, low fuel. American controllers at Wiesbaden scramble. They weren't expecting
Wait, 3 persons, the woman and child. But where's the RAF pilot? The Spitfire lands at Wiesbaden at 15:03 hours. Fuel remaining 11 gallons. Engine temperature gauges all in red. The Polish pilot shuts down, climbs out, helps Semyonov's wife and daughter from the aircraft. CIA officers surround them, blankets, water, rapid movement to waiting cars. The Polish pilot says 4 words in English. Tarrant is still inside. Then he vanishes. CIA extracts him through their networks. His identity stays classified until 2009, revealed as former Polish Air Force Captain Jan Kowalski, flew Spitfires with 303 Squadron during the Battle of Britain, killed in Budapest, 1956, during Hungarian Revolution.
Back at Poznan Krasiny Airfield, 1404 hours, Soviet GRU officers arrive. They take custody of Tarrant from the furious Polish military. Interrogation begins immediately. They're professionals. No torture, yet just questions. Relentless, overlapping, searching for contradictions. Why defect? Money? Ideology? Disillusionment? Which intelligence does he have? Tarrant maintains his story. Disillusioned with British capitalism, wants asylum, has information about NATO reconnaissance operations, but his aircraft was stolen before he could provide details. The GRU officers aren't stupid. The timing is suspicious. A woman and child in the aircraft? Who are they? They don't connect it to Semyonov yet. His leave doesn't expire for 5 more days. No alert issued, but they're suspicious. They move Tarrant to a facility outside Warsaw. Concrete cell. No windows. 18 hours of questions. Sleep deprivation. Cold. More questions. March 12th. They confront him with photographs. The woman and child from the aircraft. Who are they? Why were they in your plane? Tarrant claims ignorance. Resistance fighters stole my aircraft. I don't know those people. Let me contact the British Embassy. The interrogators leave. Hours pass. March 13th. They return. Different approach. Flight Lieutenant Tarrant, we know you're not a defector. We know this was an intelligence operation. Tell us what you know, and we'll exchange you for captured Soviet personnel. Refuse, and you'll spend the next 30 years in the Gulag. Tarrant says nothing. March 14th. Semyonov's leave expires. He doesn't return to Moscow. The GRU realizes. They connect the woman and child to Semyonov. Fury and embarrassment. They've been played. But revealing the escape would mean admitting a massive intelligence failure. Defector's family extracted by a single aircraft right under Soviet noses. Worse, they've been interrogating the British pilot who enabled it, giving NATO time to debrief Semyonov thoroughly. Decision from Moscow. Salvage what's possible. Offer exchange. March 18th. British Embassy receives notification. Soviet Union will release Flight Lieutenant Tarrant in exchange for 2 GRU officers captured in West Germany the previous year. Exchange location, Glienicke Bridge, Berlin. Date, March 25th. The British publicly express shock. They thought Tarrant had defected. Privately, MI6 coordinates with CIA. The operation succeeded. Semyonov and his family are already relocated to the United States under new identities.
March 25, 1953, 1400 hours. Glienicke Bridge connecting West Berlin to Potsdam. Overcast sky, temperature 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Photographers from multiple intelligence services document everything. Tarrant walks from the Soviet side. 15 days of captivity, visibly thinner, moving stiffly. The 2 GRU officers walk from the western side. They meet at the bridge's center, the white line marking the border. Brief pause. Then they pass each other. No words, no acknowledgement. Tarrant reaches Western control. American and British officers greet him. Blankets, coffee, immediate transport to U.S. military hospital for medical evaluation. Debriefing lasts 4 days. He describes every moment of captivity. interrogation techniques, Soviet procedures, officer names, facility layout, everything useful. On the 5th day, a British officer enters with documents. Flight Lieutenant Tarrant, we have a problem. The Soviets publicized their version of events. They claim you attempted to defect, failed, got captured. To counter their narrative, we need to reveal the truth, that you were conducting an intelligence operation. Tarrant shakes his head. That tells them exactly how we did it. They'll plug every hole we exploited. Then you remain a failed defector publicly. Court-martial for unauthorized flight into hostile territory. Discharge from service. Your reputation destroyed. Tarrant chooses the lie. Court-martial and aftermath. 25 minutes to 27 minutes. April 1953. RAF court-martial. Closed proceedings. Charges: unauthorized flight, violation of airspace protocols, endangering aircraft, and classified equipment. Tarrant pleads guilty, offers no defense. The presiding officers, all briefed on the true nature of the operation, sentence him to 6 months in military prison, suspended, and dishonorable discharge. Publicly, Tarrant is a disgraced pilot who flew unauthorized into Poland, got captured, and needed rescue. Newspapers call him reckless. Fellow pilots avoid him. His family believes the public story. His father refuses to speak to him. His mother writes one letter. I don't understand why you would throw everything away. Tarrant moves to Scotland, works as a bush pilot. Small airfields, cargo runs. Doesn't talk about the war. Doesn't talk about Poland. When people recognize his name, he changes the subject. 1965. Colonel Pyotr Semyonov dies of heart failure in California. His wife and daughter attend under assumed names. CIA sends no representatives. Officially, they don't know these people. 1989. Berlin Wall falls. Soviet archives begin opening. Still nothing about Tarrant's operation. Too embarrassing, apparently. Purged or never officially recorded. 2003. Jan Kowalski identified posthumously as the Polish pilot who flew the Spitfire out. Polish government awards him the Virtuti Militaris, Poland's highest military decoration. The ceremony mentions resistance operations, but not the specifics.
September 2014. CIA releases tranches of Cold War documents under 50-year declassification protocols, buried in 4,700 pages. Operation HOMEWARD. March 1953. 3 pages. Semyonov's extraction. Tarrant's role. The false defection cover. A researcher finds it. Contacts British military historians. They verify against RAF archives, recently opened. It matches. October 2014. The Guardian runs the story. Disgraced RAF pilot was actually Cold War hero. Michael Tarrant, age 89, living in a cottage outside Inverness, Scotland, receives a phone call from RAF Public Affairs. They want to correct the record, offer him reinstatement of rank with full honors. Public ceremony. Tarrant declines the ceremony, accepts the reinstatement paperwork quietly. No press conference. No memoir. A reporter reaches him by phone, asks how it feels to be vindicated after 61 years. Tarrant's response, recorded in the interview: I knew what I signed up for. I knew what it would cost. I'd do it again, but I wouldn't enjoy it more the second time. Asked about the 47 minutes on the ground in Poland: longest 47 minutes of my life. Not because I was afraid they'd shoot me. I was afraid the people we came for wouldn't make it. When I heard that Griffin engine start up, I knew they had a chance. That's all we could give them, a chance. The reporter presses, do you feel like a hero? No, I feel like a pilot who did his job. Kowalski was the hero. He flew that Spitfire out with 2 passengers who didn't belong there. MiGs chasing him. No weapons, no backup. I just sat in a Polish chair and lied for a few days. The operation became a case study at CIA training facilities. Key lessons. First, solo penetration of hostile airspace generates less response time than expected. Large formations trigger coordinated defense. Single aircraft creates confusion over intent. Malfunction, defector, or probe. Second, bureaucratic friction between allied Soviet forces, Polish military versus Soviet intelligence, creates exploitable windows. Local pride delayed Soviet takeover by approximately 30 minutes. Enough. Third, pre-positioned ground assets with legitimate documentation can operate inside secure facilities longer than infiltration teams. The resistance fighters had forged Soviet paperwork. They walked in.
The Spitfire, PR.XIX, serial PS853, never flew again. Recovered from Wiesbaden, found structurally sound but engine overstressed beyond economical repair. Scrapped in 1955, no components preserved. The runway at Poznan Krasini where Tarrant landed still exists, now part of civilian Poznan-Glienicke Airport. No plaque, no memorial. The Polish government doesn't acknowledge the incident officially. Too many complications with Russia even today. Tarrant's medals arrived by mail in 2014. Distinguished Flying Cross, retroactive to 1953. No ceremony, per his request. He mounted them in a drawer.
Michael Tarrant died January 2019, age 93, in Inverness. His obituary in local papers mentioned his RAF service and the declassified operation. 23 people attended his funeral. No military honors. Again, his request. His estate donated his personal papers to the RAF Museum. Among them, 17 pages of hand-calculated fuel consumption tables for the Poland flight. Every variable accounted for: wind speed, altitude, weight, temperature. He'd run the numbers before accepting the mission. At the bottom of the last page, a single handwritten note. Acceptable risk if Kowalski flies return. Not acceptable if I do. Insufficient low-level experience. Recommend delay until suitable pilot available. The CIA rejected the delay recommendation. The defection window closed March 15th. Tarrant flew anyway. The Cold War demanded choices like that. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, knowing they'd never be thanked, often ensuring they'd be condemned. Tarrant spent 61 years as a cautionary tale, the reckless pilot who threw away his career. He accepted that cost because two people he never met deserved a chance to escape. In 2016, Semyonov's daughter, now 74, living in Oregon under her American name, learned Tarrant's identity. She wrote him a letter. He never replied. She kept writing. 3 letters. 4. In 2018, he wrote back. 1 page. Your father was a brave man. I'm glad you and your mother made it. That's all that mattered. Please don't contact me again. Some doors should stay closed. She respected his wishes. The last sentence of his letter, which she shared after his death. I wasn't brave. I was just stubborn and good at math. The brave ones were the people who climbed into that aircraft trusting strangers. I only had to trust physics. That's the kind of hero the CIA didn't want you to know about. Not the fearless warrior, but the methodical engineer who calculated every risk, accepted every cost, and never asked for recognition. If you think stories like this deserve to be told, missions that stayed classified so long the heroes died as villains, hit that subscribe button. The algorithm rewards channels you engage with, and that's how we make sure history this important doesn't disappear again. Next time, Operation Ivory Coast, November 1970, the raid to rescue American POWs from Son Tay prison in North Vietnam. The raid that perfectly succeeded except for one problem. The prisoners had been moved. Until then.